Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this episode of Breakthroughs with Bre, where we are having breakthroughs about our personal and spiritual development, all in pursuit of living our most joyful, authentic, and free lives. My name's Bre. I am an Akashic Records channeler. I'm an astrologer. I'm an energy healer. I'm a tarot reader, and I use all of those modalities to do one of my favorite things, which is soul alignment and healing coaching. And today on this episode, I'm so excited. I have on a psychic channeler that I have worked with, that I have done sessions with many times. And we're going to talk about not only her experience coming into her channeling gifts and important things to know about coming into your gifts and developing your channel, which is something she specializes on, but we're also going to talk about her channeling spirit babies, the little spirit beings that have the potential to be your children, and even her channeling into the higher self of children who are you're either pregnant with or that have already incarnated in our children that you have. It is one of the most delightful and fun conversations that we've had to date. I'm so excited for you to hear it. But before we jump into the episodes, a couple fun updates and announcements for you. I've officially launched my tarot reading services that are available for single sessions on my website, healingwithbre.net. I'm really excited for these sessions because I'm using my ability to tap into guidance from your spirit teams and the message and the energy of the cards to be able to get you really specific information to different areas of your life and questions that you have. So, some of the ways that this is going to be really big is for career and business forecasting. There's a lot of really cool things you can do with tarot, like, for example, if it's career or maybe if you own your own business or you're thinking about opening up your own business, it can be what is the energy of the business itself? What is the energy of how it wants you to interact with it? It can be things like what are some of the big themes of what your experience is meant to be, you're meant to learn versus some of the things that the business wants to bring through. It can be about really finding the energetic momentum of different options that you're considering for your business. Maybe it's certain kinds of partnerships, maybe it's certain kinds of offerings, right? Maybe it could just be many different things, products that you want, right? Maybe it's about timing from when you want to release and tap into some of those things, right? All of that can be answered and forecasted with the cards because what the cards do is they help signal to us what the potential energy is of all of those different outcomes and choices. So, whatever kind of information you want to tap into, maybe it's like strengths you're bringing to the business, maybe it's things that, there is going to be a focus on to maybe get help on or to get support on or to keep an eye on that maybe are some weaknesses that could get you, like there's just so many cool things that you could do. And that same thing can apply to other areas of your life. So if you're on a healing journey, if you're on a spiritual awakening journey, if you're trying to really tap into your gifts and you're wanting to see things that you don't see, right? Like, what are the elements at play in this certain pattern that I keep coming across, or in this block that I feel like I'm feeling, right? Like, what are the seen and unseen elements? What are the courses of actions I could take? Like what are the different energies at play with this situation, and how can I alchemize them to really get the outcome that I want? Like the tarot can get really specific with a lot of stuff around that. So all of that can be found on my website, healingwithbre.net. And my last thing, I would so appreciate if you followed, if you rated the podcast on whatever app that you're on, and if you shared your favorite episodes with people that you think would enjoy them, maybe on your story, maybe in your favorite Facebook group, like whatever you feel like resonates, sharing helps so, so much. And I appreciate it more than I can tell you. So, with all that being said, I hope you enjoy this episode. All right, everybody, on today's episode, I'm so excited because I have on a psychic channeler that I have worked with before, who I've done sessions with. Today, we have on Jessie, who is a clairvoyant, a channel, and an intuitive development expert. Hi, Jessie, how are you?
Hi. I'm feeling really good. I'm excited to do this.
I'm so excited too. So I started working with Jessie, just as like a background for everybody, a couple years ago now. My first reading with you must have been, I don't know, maybe in 2021, I think. Well, I would love if you would start by telling everybody a little bit about you. I gave you the heads up on some of the questions I love to ask my guests. So as a way for my audience to get to know you a little bit, if you would share with us, do you know like your big three in your astrology, maybe human design, maybe like some of those other personality tests? Give it to us.
Yes. Okay. So I am. my sun sign is Leo, my moon is Aries, and my rising is Sagittarius. So I'm just
Triple
fire, fire.
fire.
Which
Love.
I feel like is a really cool thing to like alchemize in the way that like I used to just be like the shadow side of fire in terms of just like super bratty and stubborn and like I get what I want all the time. Kind of, and now I just find it like the balance of like, okay, you can be in your fire, you can have lots of fun, you can still get what you want, but like find the softness and like yeah, just healing the kind of yeah, the bratty fire sign. But she
Oh,
can
I
still
love it.
whenever she wants.
You want to know what's so funny is that like I know that the water signs are like associated with intuitiveness and all that kind of stuff, but I
Yeah,
found that some of the most psychic people I know are actually people with really prominent fire signs. I think there's
yeah,
something about like the connection to actual energy, right?
yeah,
That like really taps a lot of fire signs into a lot of psychic energy. And it can be like, of course, a little overstimulating in a similar way that
yeah,
water signs can be because you're just accessing and there's a lot of things firing off, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
that
yeah.
honestly kind of doesn't surprise me that you got this triple fire thing going on.
Yeah, it's funny too because I always like never really resonated when they were like, "Oh, these signs are the intuitive signs." Maybe because my signs were just like not on that list. But like I'd just be like, really? But the way I kind of think of it is like, I feel water signs are more connected to the more like the sentient, emotional, like depths
Yes.
of the energy. And I guess like fire signs are more the clear cognizant, like I just know this, I know that, and they can just channel because they're just like, yep, I'm here to just bring it through kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then I feel like earth signs are like they're very grounded in their way that they deliver their intuitive insights, or they can be quite like practical in the way that they deliver guidance, like very step by step and stuff. Or the air signs I feel can be like kind of fun in the way that they'll be very like wondrous and like just kind of
Curious and
delivering the I guess like sometimes more airy fairy guidance, but like magic as well.
yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I feel like that some of the dominant elements in your chart, which doesn't necessarily have to be your sun sign and doesn't even necessarily have to be your big three, it's just like what's most
Mhm.
dominant in your chart, I feel like can be how we interpret the intuitive information, right?
Yeah,
Because I will have just done an episode where I
yeah,
talk about the fact that we're all intuitive, we're all psychic, you know?
yeah,
And so the way that we bring it through can be colored by that. The way that we embody it and put it out in the world can be like influenced by those things, but none is more or less than the others for sure.
100%. Yeah, yeah.
I
And
love that.
human design I'm a generator, but I don't know like too much about that. I just know like the basic things of the generator.
I love that. Yeah, I've gotten more
Yeah.
into it recently and it's been really fun.
Mm,
Have you ever done like the Myers-Briggs or the
mm.
like Enneagram or anything like that?
I think I have, but I can't remember. Like I haven't done it recently or anything. So
Those
yeah.
used to be like so popular. I don't know, like 5 years ago, maybe they used to like be all the rage. And then my last question I like to ask everybody is if you know or would guess, what would your Hogwarts house be?
Ooh, I've been watching Harry Potter like every night, like like I'll just put it on and like go to sleep because they're like
Yeah. Yeah,
I just
the
see that
the
and I'm like,
scores. Yeah.
what would I be? I don't know. Like I feel like I only really know the vibes of either Gryffindor or Slytherin. Like I feel like you don't really get like unless you're like a diehard fan. I'm not really sure what the like Ravenclaw or like Hufflepuff. What Hufflepuff?
hmm
Hufflepuff.
hmm Hufflepuff, yeah.
I'm not really sure on their vibes. So I think like I feel like I'm too. I don't think I'd be Gryffindor because I feel like that's kind of like goody good. So I guess I'd go with Slytherin just for fun.
It kind of, you want to know what's funny? And this might sound like a little bit contradictory. I could totally see being a Slytherin because I feel like
Yeah,
Slytherins kind of own their mischievousness and they kind of
yeah,
like own what they want and they don't make it bad. You know, like some people
yeah,
can like take what they want and be
Yeah.
like not good intention. But some people can also own what they want and realize that that just doesn't make them a bad person, you know? And I feel
Yeah.
like that's a really
Yeah.
empowered energy. And so I could feel that a little bit.
Yeah.
Hufflepuff, which is what I am. And the only reason I know about it is one, because I read the books, and two,
Yeah.
just like some of the other movies and stuff that I've seen just
Mhm.
online. Like they're all about like fairness, and they're pretty altruistic too. Like it's very much
Mhm.
like this openness, this like equitability, you know, like it's like
Mhm.
hardworking, loyal, fair. Like it's kind of like a very
Yeah.
like, you
That's
know,
what was like in your reading about the corporate like
yeah,
job situation. I was like, God, you just really hate like injustice and things not being fair, and like you never had bad intentions, and you know, like that's
yes.
so that you know vibe. Like it's kind of coming back to me now, and I'm like, it's because you're Hufflepuff.
Yeah, so that is a Hufflepuff vibe. I just like
Yeah,
the like all the like drama and like the pettiness. Like it just doesn't even make sense to me. I'm like, just why? Like why would
yeah,
like why? You know what I mean? I
yeah,
just like I just can't even compute like a short circuit. I'm like, no, 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 let's not
yeah,
do that, you know?
yeah,
And so
yeah.
it's funny. I feel like you have like a little bit of both, which some people might say is like, I don't think I
Mm,
don't think it's contradictory. I could see that for
yeah,
both of the things.
yeah, definitely. I don't resonate with Draco, but like I could deal with him. I could be in Slytherin and
Put him
deal
in
with
his
him.
place. Yeah. Or ignore
Yeah.
him completely. Pretend
Yeah.
like he didn't exist.
Mm.
Okay. And then one of the things I'd like to ask my guests too is just so you can state it yourself what your pronouns are. And then since you are an international friend, if you want to tell people where you're at in the world.
Yes, yes, I'm she, her. And I'm in Australia in Queensland, which is like, say with me being triple fire sign, Queensland is the perfect place for me because it's the sunshine state. You know, like fire signs need their sun. And
Mhm.
so I just, I love it here because I'm just constantly in the sunshine.
Okay, so I would love for you to take the floor and maybe tell the listeners a little bit about your background, like how you got into this work, maybe a little bit of your story, whatever
Mm.
you're feeling called to share.
People often ask, like, with being a clairvoyant, if I, you know, utilize those gifts when I was little. So I always answer that in terms of like, yes, I was definitely the child that my parents like. I was my parents' first child, and so they were definitely like, what is going on with this one? Like, does she just have a wild imagination, or like, is it real? And then like certain things would happen where they were like, she couldn't have known that, or like just things would happen where they were like, okay, I think this is not just her imagination, like things are actually going on. And my mum took me to a clairvoyant. The lady kind of just explained to her what I was seeing and interacting with and all that kind of stuff. And I just like get so much joy also from thinking about how I used to just freak my dad out because my dad, like, my mum would have been like, oh, what are you seeing? What, what's going on? Tell me more. And my dad is kind of like, what are you seeing? Like, I'll go with him to the cemetery to visit his like uncle and whatnot. And I would just start having conversations and be pointing at, like describing the people that were around. And, me and my dad were the only people in the cemetery. So he would just be like, okay, all right, let's get back in the car. Let's go home. Like, this almost happened purposely. Like, spirit would actually show themselves to my dad every once in a while in like a very visual way that he couldn't deny. So I feel like it was almost spirit being like, no, no, this is real. Like,
Mm.
kind of thing. Like he never was um doubtful or anything like that. He was kind of just like, oh, I don't know how I feel about it. Because I think for fathers, they can't protect you from that realm. And I think they, like in the
Yeah.
human world, they're like, okay, this is my daughter. I can protect her. She's in the physical realm. Any physical other people I can protect her from, keep her safe, my baby. Whereas I feel like when your child is talking with people that are non-physical, I feel like father, that's very like at a primal level, very like strange to be like, who are these people? What are you doing talking to my daughter? But I can't control you, or like, yeah, it became like very clear to me that there was something going on other than the physical, normal realm. But then I went into school and I was like, how you just calculate, you're just like, these people don't get this, and it's not going to help me be cool or fit in, because you know, like
That's important at that age. Yeah.
yeah, that's like, okay, I'm trying to find my friends and my tribe, my community, and it's just like, okay, just be cool. Don't be the girl who talks to ghosts. And yeah, so it kind of just like got shut out until I was about 17. The lights turned back on, kind of thing, and the awareness of like energy, empathy, feeling everyone else's energy and mediumship. Like I would meet one person and meet their relatives at the same time, or like, you know, just seeing things like through my third eye, or like hearing messages, or heaps of outer body experiences like astral traveling every night. Just, it was literally just kind of a bit crazy. Plot twist, you're going to be a clairvoyant and live a completely different life for like a good 2 years. And this is something I feel is like really important to clarify, is like for a good 2 years I didn't know what all that was. Like it wasn't like everything turned back on and I identified like, oh, I'm being really empathic and feeling this person's energy, or oh, this is mediumship. they're you know, meeting this person and their grandfather's coming through who died from a heart attack, and I'm feeling that in my energy body. Or I couldn't I couldn't identify or associate with or understand what the fuck was going on. I can't function. I don't know what's going on. I might be having a nervous breakdown. I might be losing the actual plot. Like, you know, like I don't know what's going on. And you'd
I am
think
like riding a line here and I don't know which side I'm
yeah,
gonna fall on. Yeah.
yeah. It's like, just, I think because like I had those things open when I was young, there was like a slither of like understanding, like a slight bit of like, oh, it might be you know, something going on spiritually. So once I did kind of like dive into spirituality and like learning about gifts and working with spirit and all that kind of stuff, and started going to see like clairvoyance and stuff, bit by bit it all started to come together and make sense. But it was a shit show for sure. Like I was quite suicidal at the time because of the overwhelming anxiety, I just wanted to sleep so that I could not be like in that experience, because I just couldn't function. You know,
It's
it's
very
like,
overwhelming. Sounds
it's
very
just,
overwhelming.
yeah, it was just panic attacks on panic attacks trying to do normal things. And I think that's the important part, is because a lot of people assume that like if you're gifted, you're just gifted, and then you just know how to do that, and it's just natural and da 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 da. But like it took, like I said, like a decent 2 years of walking the line of like, am I having a nervous breakdown? Shall I just end it, or am I having a spiritual awakening? Are these like gifts, and can I do something with this? Like, can I crawl out of this hole? And then once I did feel like clear enough of like, okay, pretty sure that this is what it is, and I'm pretty sure I'm getting a grip on things, and I'm actually starting to see my way like through. That's when basically like my muggle life that I set up was just like not it. Just gonna go for it, because it just felt like one of those things where you're like, if I don't just go all in, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like if like I'm just
Yeah.
gonna struggle and feel all out of place if I keep trying to do other things. And it just became one of those things where it's like, just go all in, like just give it your best. Like what's the worst that can
It
happen?
can't get worse. So let's see if it'll make it better,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, and it was kind
Yeah.
of like, this just has to work. Like I just have to go all in, and it just has to work. So I started doing like these workshops where I thought I was going to run a workshop, and then spirit guides would just come in and channel the whole time. And then I'd come out the workshop and be like, was that good? What happened? Like I was kind of there, but I wasn't running the show. Like, and people would be like, yeah, it's amazing. You talked about blah, 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 but it wasn't you. Because they could see it. Like they could see my, almost like my energy, my face, my voice, my breathing patterns. They'd be like, we can tangibly watch you like kind
Frank's
of,
channel. Yeah.
yeah, like we can see it, and I'll just be like, okay, I guess I'll just go with that. Like it seems to be working, and it takes a lot of pressure off my plate. Like
Yeah.
I just have to kind of like organize the thing, and they just kind of come in, and then it just naturally became like people wanted one-on-one readings, and then I was like, yeah, let's do that. And yeah, it's just like my favorite thing.
Oh, I love that. And I'm so grateful that you shared about that part of your experience because I definitely relate to this too, like coming into spirituality and, all of these kinds of gifts later, that there is a certain like feeling of sort of like putting people up on a pedestal who have really strong gifts, right? And thinking
Yeah.
that it looks a certain way and that you're so different or separate from that, when really it's progression. Like it has to progress, no
Yeah.
matter where your starting point is, there has to be some level of progression and experience and trust building and learning and like all this kind of stuff that you have to do with your
Yeah.
gifts, with your guides
Yeah.
to like get to a place where you start to be able to articulate it, where you start to be able to like actually wield and use some of these gifts in ways that feel really aligned. Like you kind of have to stumble to a certain extent through the
Yeah.
path to kind of learn some of the things that you got to learn. It's like I feel like some people expect it to be that thing where it's like somebody flicks on the lights and boom, you go. And that's
Magic.
it.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And like
Mm-hmm.
some things maybe can be kind of like that, but they're not really like that in my
Mm-hmm.
experience and
Yeah.
from what I've heard from people?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think it's like, if you just look at it in the perspective of like anyone who is, say, like a well-known psychic or clairvoyant or medium or whatever, like they will always say like that they had their training period, or like the point where it like their soul knew what to do, but their human was like, what the fuck is going on? And
Yeah.
you have to integrate it, and you have to, even just the little things of like, it's for a lot of people, it's even just the point of which where they put it out there that they are intuitive, that they have these gifts, that they're utilizing it, they want to offer it. Like for someone to come out and be like, I'm a clairvoyant, is sometimes the hardest part, because I've taken so many people through like the gifted experts course or the oracle advancement of like learning to activate and use all their gifts and to build a readings business and to offer them as a service. But then that's often like the hardest part for them is like, but now I have to like
Say
let
it.
people know,
Yeah.
and even, yeah, say that I'm a psychic or a clairvoyant or a medium, or and so I think there's so much more to it than just being like, oh, this person's just got a gift kind of thing. It's like you have to integrate so many human things to get to the point where you could even say I'm a clairvoyant or
Yeah. Coming out of the psychic closet, as I kind of
yeah,
said. Like it
yeah,
definitely like yeah, I related to that a lot, especially because I grew up in a very like religious, background, which we talked about when I did the episode of your podcast. And so like this fear of like all these people from when I grew up and, all the whatever, we're like going to judge and all of a sudden they're going to think I'm evil and crazy. Like you really got to feel at peace with your own self, with your own experience, like with your own level of conviction in order to like have that like open it up to that kind of possibility if you've been trained to be afraid of that. So I
yeah.
entirely agree. There's like a lot of elements that will be unique to each person that are kind of
Mhm.
meant for them too and their own soul path for this incarnation that you just kind of have to allow yourself to go through step by step as you're like really starting to tap into and expand into whatever your gifts are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, like so many things come up, or so many people experience like they know they could provide a reading, but they also just are horrified of like getting it wrong because their inner child learned when they were younger that like they were wrong somehow, or that they, you know, would be punished, or things like that for speaking up or speaking out or saying what they thought or felt, like, so
Yeah.
there's so many elements to it, but I
Yeah.
love helping people through that because it's like it's so fun on the other side.
It's
Like
so fun.
you just get to do readings for people and it's like amazing.
It's so much freaking fun. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's funny on the episode that I just did, I said that like your personal development and healing is
Mm,
it's so involved, it's so intertwined with your spiritual gift development. And
mm,
like like I think that there's like some timing, some orchestration of how things come together so that your
yeah.
personal healing development work is sort of matching and supporting whatever kind of gifts that you're tapping into, that they're so
Mm,
intertwined. So I love how you said that. And
mm,
I think that there's a certain element of like you having whatever kinds of experiences that you need to have so you feel really clear on why you're doing it, right? Like, what
mm,
are you using your gifts for? Like, what feels important to you? There's a million things you could do with them, you know? And so like
mm,
you finding that what is the thing that I want to do? You know, like I've talked to a lot of people who have different kinds of gifts and they don't necessarily use them for like sessions with people, right?
mm.
Because they know they can tap into it and maybe with friends and loved ones they do, but like they're clear that their mission is I really love doing this, you know? And I think that that's also really important for just life in general, but of course, you know, coming into the whole spiritual realm. And I wonder
Yeah.
what you would think about that. And I'd also love to hear your take on like why, like why you do this and what like your take is on what you're here to do with your gifts.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, so with the first part of it, you're mentioning like the reason why they're going to utilize their gifts, right? Because I think that's a really interesting one too, because I feel like there's a lot of people who are meant to engage with their gifts and utilize their gifts to have it be like offered to others, whether it be like they're therapist, but they like use their intuition to like go deeper with people, or they might just be a straight up psychic that, you know, is like, just give me your questions, I'll give you answers kind of thing. Or it could literally be someone who's like the CEO of some big corporate business that has like a big mission and are just secretly like making all their decisions based on the intuition that they've built within themselves. You know, like it could be anywhere and everywhere type of thing. Like it doesn't always calculate like if you are intuitive, you utilize your gifts, that it's a direct giving of guidance. Like it can be used in so many ways, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's
um,
something that I've told people is just because you know you have spiritual gifts doesn't mean you have to do like an obviously spiritual kind of job, you know?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's like how you use your gifts that matters. And you
yeah,
can use them in any kind of situation. You can use it within your family and with your children. You can use it at like a muggle job if you really wanted to. You could do something on the side. You know what I mean? Like the options are absolutely
yeah,
limitless and you can
yeah.
still be fulfilling your purpose and you can still be helping the world, not
Mm,
doing a job that's like strictly in like the spiritual or like psychic industry. You know what I mean?
yeah, 100%. Or like I always love telling the story of my dad. I find it so funny because he's like he's such a master manifester, but he'd never like put it outward. Like he just has this thing about winning stuff. Like he went on the Wheel of Fortune, won the whole thing. Like he just
Whoa.
anytime he enters a raffle, he wins it. Anytime he goes and plays like in a golf tournament, he wins it. But just he just wins stuff, you know. And so he loves like betting on horses and going to races and all that kind of stuff because he's just like he just has this thing where like he puts it very simply. He's just like, well, if you just believe that you've already won it, then it just manifests that way. Like you just got to tell you, like you've just got to actually get it in your system that you've already won. And so like, I know that's not like necessarily intuitive gifts, but I just love like yeah, when it comes to like spiritual stuff, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're like an outwardly like spiritual person. You're like, I manifest everything, blah, blah, blah. My dad just has this little cheeky thing where he's just like, I just pretend I already won the things and then I just go win them. And it's just kind of fun. Like, you know,
Yeah,
like,
everybody's gifts are kind of like showing up in their own unique way and it might not
yeah,
look like how people think it would look and they don't even have to label it that way for it to be what it is, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I feel like it's just like a really cool thing because it's just like created this whole philosophy for him of like, he's super generous. He just always gives and gives and gives and gives because he's,
Oh.
I've realized that the more that you give, the more that you get back. And, you know, like if I'm just winning things, then I should just like circulate that because it's like a nice energy flow kind of thing.
Oh.
That's how I put it in my words, but he just puts it real simple. He's just like, yeah, you just think you've already got it and then you get it. And then you just keep passing it around because then it keeps coming back to you. He puts it super simple.
Oh my
But
God, I love that so much.
like, really like hidden spiritual people.
Yes, yes. I don't even know how
Um,
profound and like
yeah,
actually like really magical that is, and that's fine.
yeah, yeah. And then what was the second question?
It was about your why. Like tell me about like what like for
Yeah.
you, what
Hmm.
feels like maybe it's a part of your mission or like what
Yeah.
feels most joyful to like use your gifts for at least at this point in time because of course
Yeah.
everything can shift and change and that's fine
Yeah.
too.
Definitely, definitely. I feel like it's kind of in two part in the way that like the first part originally was always about like if there are other people out there who are experiencing what I did experience and they just don't know that they're experiencing it, I want to like be there right beside them and just like be like, hey, it's all good. Like these are your gifts, these are your sensitivities, this is how you can start to utilize them. Like you'll turn this into like a superpower and you'll never look back. You know, like that was a huge thing for me because I just didn't have anyone at the time. So I was like, I don't want anyone else to go through that by themselves. And I want them to feel super empowered because there's a lot of crap out there about like just very fear based things around spirituality and like using your gifts and working with spirit, you know, oh, be careful, protect yourself 24/7. And I just feel like there needs to just be a very clear, empowering way to support people in realizing their gifts and utilizing them and feeling fucking magical.
Yeah.
um, but also like when it comes to just doing readings for people and helping them like in their path, um, to me, like I feel like the reason why is that like I just really, really, really have always connected to the sense of like if you have a vision to hold, then that'll get you through everything. If you know what I mean. Like I've just always functioned like that and I really connect to people who function like that. And I just feel like if someone can feel that they've got clarity and they've got a vision to hold and they've got a sense of like trusting the process and knowing what they need to know. Like there's that balance between trusting the process and also knowing like, okay, I understand this now. I see this now. I can hold this vision because this is what's meant to be for me. And it makes it like more easy to trust the process, you know? So
Yeah.
that finding that balance, like that just really excites me and lights me up. Like I just love the sense of like supporting someone to be like, yeah, this is why I'm here, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm excited by, or like this is the reason why I can like alchemize the things that maybe weren't feeling so great, or you know, the more like traumatizing, painful things that they've experienced, but like alchemizing it in a way of like, oh, that's part of my purpose, that's part of my like who I'm becoming in this lifetime. And yeah, I just find it so fun. And I just feel like spirit, the way that they deliver messages and guidance is also just so like, it helps us not take life so seriously, you know, that, like the way that they bring it through is just like, yeah, understand this, see this, hold the vision for that. You're all good. Like, just
Yeah.
kind of come back to like why your soul is here. It's, don't get so entrapped in the whole matrix shit,
Yeah.
you know. But I find it very like freeing and liberating to help people get that connection and that vision. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that so much. Thank you for sharing
Mm.
that. Okay, cool.
Mm.
I feel like we in a minute we'll go into the main segment. We'll talk a little bit more about your channeling and some spirit babies. Woohoo. Okay, so for the fun part of today, talking about a little bit more about your channeling and specifically about the spirit baby stuff, which I think is just so fun and so fascinating.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your channeling. I'd love for you to start by telling us a little bit about what that experience is like for you. Maybe it's exactly how you tap in, maybe it's about how you receive messages, maybe it's, how you choose exactly what you're channeling into or whatever you feel called to share with us about it.
Yeah, definitely. I will share it in like two ways, because sometimes I'm channeling while I'm still very like consciously part of the like the interaction with my client and everything. And then sometimes I'm channeling where I'm really just like kind of stepping out and
Like
letting them.
trance channeling. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't necessarily, I guess, trance channel in terms of like I'm gone, like I don't leave. You know how some people will say like they exit, like they are not in the, they're not cognizant of anything that's happening, kind of thing. But to me, that doesn't really feel. I don't know. I just am kind of like, I like my
Yeah. You'd
body.
like to be like there, but you're just kind of out
Yeah,
of the way a little bit more. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like I've just kind of taken one step back, and my guides have like come through my channel. But yeah, um, so with like the more, I guess, like interactive channeling and the more present channeling, like say if I'm doing a reading for someone, it's really like the experience of like having the four main different clairs all bringing forward the insight, the guidance, the messages. So, like, say for instance, it's kind of like a flowy feeling of like, okay, I'm like tapped into this person. Um, they might have asked about this area of their life, and now I'm getting like a clairsentient feeling of like, okay, this is the energy, the emotion that's currently like happening, and then I'll get like a knowing of why they're bringing that forward, and then like the vision and the messages kind of come together. Like I'll kind of, as I'm, even as I'm like looking at the person, it's almost like I've also got a projector screen up here showing me the like third eye visions that the spirit's bringing through. And so it's a very like multi-sensory thing, you know, where it's like I'll feel it, I'll know what that's about, and then I'll have up here the vision of what spirit's trying to bring forward. And it's almost like a little movie's playing up here while there's like a narrator in the background being like, okay, I'm seeing that because of da 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 da, or like, you know, so it's like I kind of just go into a zone where those senses are all turned on and they're all flowing with each other and they're all kind of correlating with each other. And then sometimes like I'll focus on just being with my pen and paper and writing it all down, because sometimes that's a good way to just kind of hone in on and download everything without getting distracted by like talking to the person.
Hmm.
Sometimes I just need the pen and paper and then other times I'll like, sometimes the pen and paper is too slow. It'll be like, you know, like, and I'll write like a crazy person because I'm just trying to get it all out, and I'll be like, I can't even read what I'm writing. And so I'll just kind of throw that to the side and just I'll just be telling them like, okay, so I'm getting this feeling, getting this knowing, I can see this, they're telling me blah 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 blah. And the more that I just kind of move with it and don't slow it down, because yeah, sometimes the pen and paper is too slow. Sometimes I just need to move with the motion of like the speed that they're working at, and I'll just the more I can just speak it and share it, and use my body language and all of that, they'll just keep coming and coming. Like it'll just keep going. Like I was talking to one of my students the other day, and she was saying like she was doing like email readings for people, and she was like, I just keep getting frustrated and I keep feeling like I'll write stuff down and I'll get nothing. And I'm like, you have to understand how your channel works. Emailing is obviously not for you, because like you're not even being able to connect with the person and bring stuff through, and so your channel's kind of getting slowed down or blocked because it's like it feels like it's not really going anywhere, if you know what I mean. So I kind of think of it like, you know, one of those, what are they called, like those water turning thingies,
Like
it's
the
like a belt.
wheel that
Yeah,
has power and like yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like the water keeps coming in, but the thing has to keep moving in order to like have that flow sense. But if you stop the wheel, it like, yeah, it
It's
goes
like
all.
blocked up and stopped up
Yeah.
and the flow is
Yeah,
disrupted. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
totally get
it's
what you
kind of
mean.
like that. Yeah, so I've realized like I have those options of like I can just kind of focus and write it down on paper and I can just go with it at that pace. And other times it's like throw that to the side, just talk it, just da 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 da. Because sometimes the pen and paper helps to get the bigger picture of everything before starting to describe it all to the person. Because sometimes I need to be at the end point of being like, okay, and that relates to that, and that relates to that, and
Yeah.
that. And the most like important message that relates to everything is this. Whereas at other points with other people, it's like, don't worry, just keep saying what we're sharing and it'll all come together and it will make sense type of thing.
Yeah.
That's more like the experience in the interactive channeling. But then say if I'm doing like a channeling for a person or for a course, like a lot of my trainings and meditations and things like that is just me tapping in, putting on a recording thing and just channeling. And that's where it's more like I tune in, like just feel clear in my channel. I'll start to call in my spirit guides through my like crown chakra. I'll feel lots of activations in my throat chakra. Like I usually have to kind of like stretch my neck and move my body a bit to kind of like consciously open it up, um, and to fully surrender that to them almost. You know, it's like, okay, just get myself out of the way. um, and yeah, sometimes you can feel like almost this energy like loading in the throat chakra. I remember the first time I did it, I was like, I felt like there was a balloon blowing up in my throat chakra, and I was like, like, and it was once I started speaking, like, because I was at the time, I was like, well, what are they going to say and what's going to come through and blah blah blah. And I just got that feeling of like, just start talking, don't think about what's going to be said, just start talking. And I remember I was like in my dad's house, like I had the house to myself. I shut the bedroom door, closed all the curtains because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want anyone else to see it because I don't feel like I'm in control necessarily. um, as if it was like some weird thing.
Yeah.
Um, I was like, I don't know, I'm just gonna let go and see what happens, but I just want to feel like no one's watching, type of thing. But yeah, it's like you get that loading in the throat chakra, and then it's like, okay, it's time to speak. You don't know what you're gonna say, but it's just time to speak. Or sometimes I'll know like the first word or the first couple of words, and then once I get those out, then I just keep talking, 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 and it's almost like I hear the words or what the message is like a 0.5 of a second before it comes out my mouth. You know,
Yep.
like it, I'll, yeah, it's like I'm just a smidge ahead of the words of like
So
what other people hear.
interesting. I love hearing how you talk about it because a lot of it is really similar to how I channel too. It can come
Yeah,
through so different. And I've
yeah,
explained this a little bit to people. Like sometimes they give me the whole concept and then I ask them to help me explain it, right? And so that it might be like a plopped of like an image or like on the screen and the feeling and you're like, okay, I get it. So okay, now guys, help me take it back to the beginning. How do you want me to explain what I got? But sometimes it's exactly like you said. They're like, here's the first word, and like you just gotta go. Like, and I'm like, all right, like we'll see what happens. I'll just say it, and it almost kind of feels like getting onto a river with like a little floaty device. You found the spot in the river and you just gotta
yeah,
get on and see where it takes you. Like you
literally.
can't see what's around the river bend,
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
just gotta see what happens. Or
yeah,
like you said, like sometimes it's like I can see a sentence but like I can't
mm,
see the rest of it. It's like it's blurry. Like they're showing me in focus and like it's almost like I'm reading across a page, but they're only giving me a couple
yeah,
words at a time. And it's only until I've said the words before that the next ones come into focus. You know what I mean? Like sometimes
yeah.
it's like that too. So
You
that's so
can,
interesting.
but you can sense that there's a whole chapter on that or a whole book
Yes.
on that. You can sense it. You can be like, there's a lot of substance to this, but I only know the first sentence. And once I say that, then the next sentence, and it all
And you
kind
want
of
to know what's so funny is on those times when I feel like there's more and they just needing me to start, that's usually when I feel like they come in a little bit more and like whatever they say is what they say. Like I'm not translating it. Sometimes I feel like I'm translating the messages with
Mhm.
my own self, and sometimes I'm just literally saying it. It's after those times that I literally feel myself come back a little bit more, and I'm almost a little bit out of breath. Like I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man, and I can feel the energy. It's like we really caught like an energetic current and we tapped into all of the
Mhm.
information that's on that current, you know? And
Yeah.
sometimes they'll say stuff and it'll be blunt, you know? And I'll be like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have said it like that, but they said it, so apparently you needed to hear it,
Yeah.
you know? And it's
Yeah.
fascinating.
And they use words that you wouldn't use, and
Hmm.
yeah. So and yeah, I get the same thing where I'll be like like just trying to catch my breath because they're just it's almost like they're so excited to speak, and they're like, she's
Yeah.
letting us through, let's just give as much information as possible, like you know.
I
And so
get
I'm
that
like,
with images sometimes too. They'll like drop everything at once and I'm like, "Whoa, okay, I get it." But like which one do you want me to start with? Like where do you want me to go? Like we'll go through all of them, but like hold on. Whoa, one at a
yeah.
time, you know?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, or like with the writing, like a lot of people really resonate with the written form of channeling, like automatic handwriting, because it just kind of has that same experience of like they're just writing and they don't know what they're going to write next, but they keep getting words and words and words and words, and yeah, sometimes it just feels like they're writing off the page, or they're just kind of
Yeah.
writing so fast, and they're like, this isn't even my handwriting, like it's not even how I write. And um yeah, channeling's just fucking awesome,
It's
like
so fun. It's
it's
so fun.
absolute adrenaline rush, and then sometimes afterwards you feel like the fried toaster.
Yes, you have
Like,
to take care of your body a lot if you're going to be
yeah.
bringing through that kind of energy. Like attuning to your vessel and taking care of your vessel and channeling, I feel like is its own thing. But
Yeah.
absolutely, because it takes a lot. It can be a lot on your body.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a really like tough one to learn, because sometimes I would just be like, I just want to keep channeling, or I just want to keep doing this, or like this person really wants a reading, so I'll just do the reading for them, and then yeah, it's like,
There's a
oh,
lot. There's a lot that goes. And I feel like again, there's something to be said for progressing, like letting
mm,
your body build stamina, right? Like how it looked for me to do work that was a lot more intensive channeling, like my Akashic Records channeling is a lot more for me and also a lot more in cost than some of my other stuff because of the level of channeling that I have to do and like where I let it be in my week and what things I do the same day and even what things I do the next day and what I do or don't do the day before. Like it's all a part of it, you know? And I feel like it takes a while to learn what that means for you and your body. Like it takes a minute to learn like what uniquely sets you up for that to feel like it's really open and it feels really good and how to like recuperate, you know? And
yeah,
like what doesn't.
yeah, yeah. Like I'll have like friends who have messaged me, and I'll be in my readings portal, at that point of the week, and then I'll get back to them and be like, sorry, I was doing readings. Like if I'm doing readings, I don't have capacity for anyone else.
Yeah.
Like if I've got a client who's paying me, they get my capacity. I don't have capacity to also be in touch with multiple different other people and their energies, and like it's very much like I'm just in my own little zone, my own
Yeah.
little cave, if you will, of
Yeah.
like have the priority of doing these readings with these people, and I don't,
Yeah.
and at other times I'm just zoning out, relaxing.
Yeah, yeah. That like knowing of what your own capacity is and
Yeah.
and understanding the kind of energetic boundaries that you need within
Mm,
yourself and your week to do that kind of work.
mm,
Again, a whole other thing. I totally understand.
mm.
One of the things that you channel that is so freaking amazing is you channel spirit babies. And
Yeah.
I would really love for you to tell us about this. This is an offering that you have right now. It's something that you've done for me before. And
Yeah.
I think that, people being really curious about, what children might come through, whether,
Mm,
they're haven't started having children yet, or maybe they're thinking about having more. Like this is something that that's like really fun to think about in terms of like what spirit and connecting with spirit can kind of offer us during that time. So I would love
yeah.
for you to tell us about like how that came to be and like what that's like for you.
Yeah, because I mean, like spirit babies have always come through in readings, like just soul readings that I do. Because like when your spirit babies were coming through, that wasn't a spirit baby reading, right? Like that was
It's just a soul reading. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So they've always like come through. But the reason why I've like more specifically offered spirit baby readings this year is because it just is like a really dear to my heart thing. Like I've felt so connected to my spirit babies in the last year. Like I was pregnant, had an ectopic pregnancy, but that kind of just like blew it all wide open for like even clearer, stronger, like more consistent, like I was just communicating with them every single day kind of thing. And so with readings, like anything that you have a real connection to or you have a strong knowledge base on, it's always going to be so much easier for you to channel because your mind can connect the dots. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
for instance, like just, yeah, say if someone has a really great knowledge base as like a naturopath and they have a really great knowledge base of the body and health and how it all works and what supplements help and da 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 da. For them to do like an intuitive, like medical mediumship, like body scan kind of thing, so much easier for them because they can reference to things so easily and they can be like, okay, yeah, because spirit is basically pulling upon
The
what
information you already have in your brain.
yeah, like what's
Yeah.
in your awareness and being like pointing to it, being like they need this and da 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 da. It's very hard to channel on something. Well, I mean, trans channeling is different because you are stepping out the way and they are getting a bit more of a flow. Like there has been times where I've channeled stuff that I had no idea about. But when you're doing more of like an interactive reading and you're connecting the dots and translating stuff, it does often work on a base of like spirit referencing, pointing to things, and you being like, okay, yeah, connecting the dots. Yeah, this is what this person needs to know. So in the last year, like because I feel so connected to my spirit babies consciously conceiving and just like understanding the human experience of having, pregnancies, losses, in the kind of matrescence um, energy of like you're becoming a mother, like that energy just feels so connected to me. So that's, I guess, why. But also, yeah, it just feels like the spirit babies really wanted it too. Like it just felt like when I was connecting with people, like their spirit babies were just rushing in and just, like it just became one of those things where it's like, I feel like the realm of spirit babies are like, let's play, let's, like let's hang out, and we wanted to come through more. And so I was like, yeah, let's do some specific spirit baby readings. And they are just the cutest, purest energies to connect with and channel because they just have this really sweet innocence and yeah purity about the way that they come through, and their intentions are so pure. You can feel the freshness of these like brand new soul contracts that are really ready to begin, and they just have like such a deep like sweet love for their parents and what their parents are currently like experiencing as they are waiting for their babies to come in, or like they're just so like wisdomous. Like they just have this wisdom of like, mommy, you need a da 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 because that's gonna really like open the portal for us. Or they just have a million things that they can talk about. Like throughout the spirit baby readings that I've done, everyone is completely different because there's just different things that the spirit babies are feeling are the priority or the reasons or the lessons or the insights and the guidance that they want to bring through. And I just find them so gorgeous, and the connection, like because it's so far always been the female, the mother, that's come for the reading, and just the way that it seems to just like nurture them, soothe them, help them feel connection, and like yeah, I love when people can get that sense of like, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't need to go like throwing myself into like medical stuff to try and force my body to get pregnant. Like it's okay. Like I understand the multi levels that are going on here because there's often spiritual reasons, mental things that are going on, that mindset and etc., emotional level and physical level things. And sometimes it's just a balance of the four, like sometimes it'll be like, well, this thing's happening in the physical body, but the spiritual reason above it is this. So if we heal this, the physical body will match up and be ready, kind of thing. So seeing it from that level, I think, is my favorite part of them feeling like, okay, like
Yeah.
it is such like a thing of like when you are ready to have a baby, it's like that's all I want, because there's also like a primal activation of like, it's my mother time. Now I'm ready to mother. It's like, where's my baby? Where's my baby? So I feel like it's so good to just be like, okay, ground, center, focus on what's really important, because this is a magical once in a lifetime portal. You'll probably have multiple times, but they're different each time.
Yeah.
So it really is a once in a lifetime experience with each baby. And it's like, okay, let's see what's really here, because there's so much here to be experienced, and it's not to be missed by rushing or forcing it or stressing, and I think that's
Yeah.
the most important part, really.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that so much. I'm like grinning ear to ear listening to you talk about it. Like I can feel how much you enjoy it. And also I feel like just the energy of it. Like
Mhm.
I mean, I've shared on my podcast, I did an episode talking about my miscarriage experience, and I know you did as well. And while I haven't had kids yet, I definitely feel like that's something that's coming soon, like in my near future. And so
Mhm.
I just so
Mhm.
much relate to like sensing it coming and it like turning
Mhm.
on certain things in your physical
Yeah.
body as well as in like your emotional and mental field. And it's so funny because I've like really gone through periods of time where it felt so intense. And how
Yeah.
I've articulated that now is like I feel like that was a portal. I feel like there's different portals that can come in like different
Mhm.
times,
Mhm.
And like I've
Mhm.
sensed when they were close and when that was happening because it felt like this like urgent like thing. And I think
Mhm.
it's so beautiful that we can use our ability to connect with spirit to kind of
Yeah.
help guide us and give us a little bit of peace, but also help us feel
Mhm.
connected and joyful
Mhm.
as
Mhm.
we're kind of like lining ourselves up to
Mhm.
whatever those portals might look like, both for the good of us, the parents that might be, caring for these spirit babies, as well as the timing that's good for them too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes it's just like really like little details that'll be like the baby will be saying like I am like a fire sign. That is my nature, my spirit. Like, so I'm just waiting for a portal where I can be a fire sign. Or but like I also know that like there's so much more important things than just like there's a much bigger thing than just like them choosing their astrology, but like that can be part of it sometimes. Sometimes they're like, yep, I've got everything else lined up, everything ready, and I'm a fire sign, so I'm just going to come and when that portal is available to me, for example. That's just like
Yeah.
one, Can I ask like when the timing was of your miscarriage?
So the first one that I had, actually, I got confirmation of my miscarriage the day that I opened my business. So it was April 22nd, 2022. I technically had been miscarrying for a week or so before, but like I had my doctor's appointment that day where we got like as pretty much as sure as information as we got, and I started to like actually bleed a little bit more was April 22nd, 2022. And then technically, I had another miscarriage around the time you and I did a soul reading, and you were like, I am feeling baby energy on you so strong. And I was like, oh, that's funny. I'm on my period. I was not on my period. I was just miscarrying and I didn't know it. So I was really connected to a spirit baby at that time, the last time that we talked. And I think that was in January of this year, actually. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So, because they're just saying like there's like a full circle timing thing in terms of like sometimes and you'll like I've seen this a lot, even just on like TikTok and stuff, where like someone will be sharing like this time last year was when I had my miscarriage, but this is my due date, or like
Yeah.
there will be a thing of like
Synchronicities.
there's a synchronicity of like the full circle or the cyclical kind of nature to it, if that makes sense. Like, say for instance, I had my ectopic in it was like the 1st of April. And so my due date was around about like now, you know, like
Yeah, mine would
yeah,
have been December, I think 11th or December 9th or something like that. So it would have been really soon too.
yeah, and it just kind of feels like I can feel that cycle kind of coming to a close and feeling like a new door opening, and it feels kind of similar for you, but I'm wondering, so your more recent one was in January.
January. Yeah. So the due date
Yeah,
probably would have been October-ish, September,
yeah,
somewhere like
yeah.
that.
It feels like there's a completion there, but now like the doors are opening back up kind of thing. And for some reason, like February just really stands out. But I just don't want like sometimes I'm like, do I say it? Do I not say it? Because I don't want people to get like attached to timelines, but
Yeah.
also just if you can take it with a grain of salt, like sometimes certain months or like times of the year just feel really like
Sparkly. Hmm.
there's this energy and it's like um but yeah, I won't say like too much more on that, but like it just yeah, it just feels like your baby's like very much in your field being like, okay, like planning some things and like there's gonna be a cyclical kind of coincidence or nature to this. Um, I mean, it could even be that like when your due date was in October, that ends up being around the time that your baby comes in. Like there's just something that feels like, oh, you'll see. There'll be like a full circle moment or like a, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? It
Yeah.
just
Like the sort of the synchronicity with it all. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's like synchronicities with like cycles and cyclical nature, and it's just like okay, so like there'll be a kind of like thing
Yeah.
going
I love
on.
that. Yeah, no, and I
um,
totally understand about like not being attached
yeah.
to it because like so many things
Mhm.
can change. Like there's so many factors that come into it all. And then
Mhm.
also what's been shown to me through the readings I do is that like the getting pregnant is such a choice, you know, like so like you actually have like your own will is also a major factor and even it being an opportunity, even if the portal and everything's lined up. Like if you like choose not, that's totally fine. But like, you know what I mean? Like there's just so many different factors at play. So I totally understand that. And that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, yeah, because are you kind of like in a space where you're like not necessarily like consciously trying at the moment, but like having a little pause, and it feels like your baby's kind of like, okay, well, I've got my plans, and you know, like I know you'll be kind of open again when my plans are coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yes,
definitely accurate. Okay, I have a question for you. I know you talked about this before, but I'm curious what the what the 2 cents will be about it now. Is
yeah.
I am a twin, and twins run in my mom's side of the family. And it's
Mhm.
so funny because people have told me like there's a potential for some twin energy, and I'm like, I don't know if that's something that feels exciting to me. So I'm curious your take. Do you get the sense about things just in readings in general about like the possibility of those things. And are my spirit babies giving you a sense that they might come in a pair?
Right, yes, it is something that does come through, and like I had one recently where I was like saying to this woman, I was like, these babies, like they're in your energy field, they're holding hands. They're like, we're jumping in together, whether we come as twins or whether we're like one right after the other. Like, do they call them like Irish twins?
Yeah,
I'm not
when
sure.
they're like within a year of each other. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
when it's like really close. And so they'll definitely give like signals for that. I don't know if I feel that with you though, because I feel like they have an understanding of the balance that you want with your life in terms of like you're becoming a mother, but also you it feels like you're very much like in the thick of like your purpose and your business and what you want to do for others and things like that. And I just feel like they kind of view it like, well, we don't want to like take over because like she wants to have her balance and her things. And do you know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
kind of feels like there's an understanding of like we will get the same connection, soul contracts, purpose, you know, like as siblings. It just kind of feels like they don't need to be twins in order to in order to fulfill the purpose count or whatever you want to call it. You know, like it kind
Yeah.
of just feels like they could, but I feel like they're really watching everything and being like, the overall balance suits this. How do you feel about it? Like
I
how
love that because I've literally like what I've set out to my guides and to the little babes is I'm like,
mm,
look, if there's some greater plan I can't see that I don't know about that like is really tied to that, I could allow it, I would support
mhm,
it, great, you know? But
mhm,
like I also really want to be able to be present and enjoy it and have capacity for it. And I
yeah,
feel a little bit worried about the possibility of having twins and being a little overwhelmed and not being able to have as much capacity for the things
yeah,
that I know bring me a lot of joy and help keep me grounded. And like the
mm,
kind of mom that I want to be, like I really
yeah,
want to be able to be grounded in that way, you know?
yeah,
And so I've just said, like, look, if that's what's going to happen, bring the
mm,
things into my life that are going to help me be really grounded and help me have that kind of experience, or bring them to me one on one. Like, you know, like bring
yeah,
them to me one at a time. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So that like is almost exactly what you said, is that they can tell that
yeah,
it's really important to me to have a kind of like balanced experience, that there's other things that are really
yeah.
important to me right now and in
Mhm.
addition to, you know, building a family sometime soon.
Yeah,
And so that feels right on, right on
yeah.
point.
Because sometimes they'll be like, well, this is our contract. So whatever you've got to do to deal with it, we don't really care. Sometimes they can be really blunt, like, this is our contract. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do about it? Kind of thing. Whereas other times they're like, it's not really part of our contract. We could, but it's not like we have the almost like genetic DNA like opportunity to do that and we could come through together. But it feels like they're just like, we don't need to do that. It's not part of our contracts. And like what do we see as like not only mum's priority of her being the best mother for us, but also like our experience of that because they might be in a space where they're like, I'm going to really need your capacity. I'm for my purpose and my journey, having a split capacity isn't really going to be what I need,
Hmm.
because they feel quite different. Like they don't feel like sometimes with twins it can be like, oh, these two little mischief makers that are like the same and like
He's in a pod. Yeah.
two bees in a pod. And these two feel quite different. So it's like they don't feel like a I need to be with you. Like we need to do this all together. They just feel like we've got our own little, things going on. So like
Yeah.
we don't need this to come through together, although there's the opportunity. Yeah, it just
I
feels like
love
they're
that
other priorities than being twins just for the sake of being twins because there's the
possibility. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
so my last two questions for you, because I feel like these would be quite common, is
Mm,
one about the number of kids that people can have. I've spoken a little bit about this to people in readings about how I see it, but I'm
mm,
curious like how you would describe it to people about you sensing like whether they haven't started having kids yet and the total that they would have or the possibility of more
mm.
kids that they would have. Like tell me about that.
Yeah, I always find that one quite interesting because, like, often I'll see like a certain amount of energies in their field that represent spirit babies, and that's what I always remind people of is like spirit babies don't always calculate as physical children that will incarnate,
Yeah.
because, like, say for instance, I have a spirit baby that I can connect with, and I know he's not coming through in this lifetime. And there's like my girl, she has been pregnant with me before and I know she's coming back, there's different situations. And so yeah, to me it's almost like sometimes those orbs will be different in the way that like sometimes I'll see an orb but it will almost just be a circle as opposed to a full like sphere. So I'll feel the sense of like, okay, this is a spirit baby that has either already come through but didn't come, go full term, or didn't incarnate into the physical realm, and they're like sat back in your energy field, but they're kind of symbolizing that like their journey has completed in that. And then other ones that feel like we're for sure certain coming through and having an incarnation, they'll present to me as more like a sphere, like a white full sphere,
Hmm.
kind of thing. And so I'll get a bit of a differentiation between like there's a certain number of spirit babies, but they're not all the same in terms of children in this lifetime. Um, and there has been multiple times where like I'll see, say for instance, spirit babies that are in their energy field that are like a full sphere of like, yep, we're coming through. And then I'll also see like certain spirit babies that are sitting on the outside of your energy field considering you as a parent.
Mm.
So I'll be like, okay, I'll say to people like, there's definitely say three, but there's a fourth that's considering you, but they haven't stepped into your energy field. You haven't activated a contract yet. It's not for sure. It's not certain. So I never put like a certainty to like this is how many children you'll have, because there are these factors of ones that may not incarnate fully, ones that are considering you but may also choose elsewhere. So I've never thought of it as something that is like a definite determined number. But um, I'll get the general inside of things. And there's been times where I've tuned in for someone and it had a certain amount of spirit babies in their field, and then a couple of years later be like, oh, a new one's popped in. Like wasn't it beforehand? Um, this one's popped in. It's not been with you since the start of this incarnation. It's a new like contract that's come into place at a soul level. And so what I saw a couple of years ago isn't fine, isn't definite, or isn't the be all end all of it, because they can come in type of thing. So
And change. Yeah.
yeah, so it's kind of one of those things that you have to be fluid with, I guess,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is
and I
nice.
know even for me, even before I started getting into channeling work, I
Mm,
always imagined, and I feel like this is a key for anybody's intuition, like what you visualize and imagine for yourself often there's probably something to it, right? So like
mhm.
I always imagined two, but I always felt like there was a chance for a third. Like I always felt like there might be, and it kind of
Yeah.
feels more and more likely all the time that there would be a third.
Hmm.
But like
Hmm.
for sure two. Like there was always two, and they also feel very different to me. One of them for sure, a girl. I feel like one of them could choose to incarnate male or female. I feel a little bit more likely female. I'd always
Yeah.
guessed two girls and the third might be a boy. Like that was just like the guess, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how it kind of shows to me because sometimes spirit babies will come up in the Akashic Records channeling. I'd be like, oh, you got some like baby energy around you. Or like when they ask me, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see like a couple there. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So that's very interesting.
Yeah. And I think it's also the balance between like what you, yeah, that balance between like what you often visualize and what just feels like the intuitive insight, but also being conscious of like what, say, your upbringing was with your siblings, because sometimes people kind of base it off of that, like even
Mhm.
just subconsciously, they'll be like, it, if they were like a sister and they had two brothers, for example, that sometimes they might subconsciously think like, oh, I'll have three, and perhaps it'll be one girl and two boys or something. Like, I think it's good to also check in and be like, okay, am I just subconsciously mirroring like what I've experienced, what I've known, my upbringing, and like what would kind of bring me back some nostalgia, or
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
that kind of,
Familiar.
yeah, or is it something that I just like am really, like separate to that, just kind of seeing and keep coming back to type of thing,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I love that. And yeah, even how you've talked about it too, even today, I feel like you also pick up on like two primary, even in my field or something like that. But I feel like we've discussed before a potential third as well.
Yeah, yeah, it was funny like when we were talking about it and I was saying, oh, these two, I could feel the other energy, but I was like, I don't even know if they want to be mentioned yet, or like, like it feels very much like swooping over here, just kind
Yeah.
of hanging out, but like I'm not putting myself forward yet. I'm not presenting, or like, do you
Hmm.
know what I mean? I'm doing my own thing,
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And I feel that too for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it'll be like, okay, I can focus on and definitely connect with these, but you can feel like, okay, someone else is hanging around.
Yeah.
There's activity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And my
Mhm.
last thing was really just about gender too, which I feel like is probably very
Mhm.
similar to what you said about even the numbers too, that it might show itself and kind of seem a little bit more in like a divine masculine and feminine, not actually like the way that we attach things to gender, like here on
Yeah.
Earth, that it might present a certain way, but
Hmm.
that might not necessarily be exactly the gender that
Yeah,
they
I
choose or
agree.
even like their biological sex, like that it might not always translate. But I'd love for you
Yeah.
to share anything else that you would about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I would say like across the years, I would say about 80% of the time it's been that the energy in terms of if I felt like a feminine energy or masculine energy, it's correlated with the gender of the baby. I'd say like 80-85% of the time. So it does like more often correlate because like if they're presenting with like a really feminine energy, sometimes that's also part of them in this lifetime, in this incarnation, having a lot of purpose connected to the journey of the feminine and the journey of like understanding the feminine experience in the physical human world and all the kind of like generational or collective consciousness, energetics, traumas, lessons, expansions, purposes, so it's
Yeah.
like sometimes it's really part of what they need to be put into in order to experience what they need to experience in this lifetime. Sometimes it's karmic in terms of like, you could have someone who's like, their soul has always been incarnated as male and has in past life being very sexist or oppressive or very patriarchal in certain ways where like they've caused a lot of pain for women and they need to come through in this lifetime and experience being a woman so that they can heal some karma and you know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the time the energy that they present as is like them kind of showing like this, I'm going forward for the path of the feminine or the path of the masculine, type of thing. But there's also 100% like being plenty of experiences where like I think I was talking to someone like just recently who like I did a reading for years ago and they've got their child all grown up now, but I connected with them when their child was in spirit and I can't remember the details exactly, but I was basically feeling one energy, like feeling a very feminine energy. I'm pretty sure it was feminine. But they came through as a boy in gender, but like in this hindsight, the mother's like, he's just such a feminine being. Like he is so sweet, so sensitive, so gentle, so soft with me. So, like she's just like, no wonder why you thought it was a girl, like
Yeah.
just like a feminine energy kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
like no matter their gender, that's what their energy is a lot of the time, and so
Yeah.
I always say whenever I'm doing like a spirit baby reading, like do not attach to this. It is only 80-85% usually correct or correlating, but it for some reason is important for you to know that they have a very feminine or masculine energy about them so that regardless of their gender you can accept them as they are and nurture and support what is most natural to them as opposed to making them the gender that they are or things like that,
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my
Mm.
God, I think that that's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's really cute the way that they come through with like their feminine or masculine energies.
Yeah, they like start to come through with their little personalities, even like when
Mm-hmm.
they're in the spirit baby form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Massive personalities. And it's
Yeah, and it's so funny because even like as you were describing some of the ones you were tapping into for mine, you're like they're two very distinct personalities. Like you can already start to like sense sort of like the flavor, the like
mm-hmm.
the
Yeah,
vibe even before they've incarnated.
yeah. I did a reading like last week, and this little girl was coming through for her mom, and she was just like, "I'm just gonna call you my guardian. I don't really need a parent." And she's like, "I've done this many times before. I know what I'm doing. Like just give me the physical things that I need, like be my physical guardian, but just like chill it on the parenting. I'm like if you try to shape me or form me according to what you think you need to do as a parent, it's gonna get all muddly and I'm just like we're
Not
not
gonna
going to
work.
connect. So like, just feed me, house me, clothe me, you know,
And let me
like
do my thing.
give me cuddles when I need cuddles. I will raise myself practically because I know what I'm doing. So they have really, really clear senses of who they are and who they're going to be and what kind of parent they need and why they've chosen you. And they'll tell you what to do. They'll be like, don't put me in mainstream schooling or, you know, da 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 da. They'll give instructions for sure of
Oh my
like
gosh.
their plan.
Okay,
Mm.
last question. Do you do spirit baby readings for parents even after the children have incarnated? And because some of this same sense, like connecting maybe with like the higher self of their current children to kind of tap into some of that wisdom of like what that higher self of their children needs from them as a parent, as a guardian, even after they've joined the physical world.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. It could be when they're, you know, before conception. It could be during pregnancy, it could be as baby. A lot of time babies that have incarnated that are here, a lot of time they really want to talk because they're like, I'm here, everything's going on, but I can't tell my parent
Yeah.
yet what I need or what I want or why I'm crying all the time or da 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 da. So they'll talk, yeah, heaps. Or it could even be like sometimes there's been like teenagers that are going through lots and they can't communicate with their parents what they're really feeling or experiencing. So their higher self will come through and be like, Mom, just know this, or da 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 da. Like they'll give
Yeah.
instructions, kind of just all the same. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't really make too much of a difference because it's just their spirit, their soul, basically.
I
Um,
love that. I would love for you to tell people how they can find you, how they can connect with you, how they could get either a spirit baby reading or maybe one of your soul readings where you just tap in to their guides or their areas of life that they want. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah. Well, I hang out like on Instagram the most in terms of just connecting and following along, which is just Reid Clairvoyant. And my website is justreadonline.com, which has all my readings I do. I used to just do the soul readings, which is just, you know, kind of everything, but I really love doing like theme readings this year. I do like Aphrodite readings for love life, spirit baby readings, obviously, abundance readings, which is like getting into your blueprint of your abundance. And a lot of people with soul businesses love to get into that as well. But yeah, it's really, I've even done like soulmate readings for like couples. I really had fun exploring. Like, even after
Yeah.
like 10 years of just doing soul readings, this last year I've been like, let's do something, you know, fun. Like, let's just do some like very specific reading so we just get right into the like deep nitty gritty of things.
Oh, I loved it. I've like observed it all year and it's like been inspiring to me too because I'm like I can tell that this is fun. Like you like doing this
Yeah,
kind of thing and you put it out there and people can come meet you in that.
yeah,
And I think that that's brilliant.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm loving it.
Yay. And I feel like I'm definitely going to need to book one with you soon. I don't know if it'll be maybe a spirit baby reading, maybe an abundance reading, maybe both. Who knows? Because like I feel like we're due for another one sometime soon. But in the meantime, I'm so grateful that you came on this episode. I'm sure everybody is going to love it.
Amazing.
And I just
Yeah.
appreciate your time so much.
You too. You too. I feel like I just really, really thoroughly enjoyed everything that we've talked about today.
Me
Thank
too.
you so
Okay, everybody, you'll see all of the links for Jessie's stuff in the show description. Thanks
much.
for tuning in this week, and I will see you next week for more breakthroughs.